Ow! What's up? I'm Wolf Will, and this is my documentation of climbing the hill of life. And today, I want to talk about how I'm just glad that I'm getting back into this. It's only been a couple weeks since my last video, but I did get very busy. I was working a lot. I worked through the weekends. I was helping with some build projects. I went to my parents to help them clean up their house. We were getting rid of a bunch of like trash and scrap metal and stuff like that. And then this last weekend, a couple days ago, I just got really sick, and that was unfortunate. So wasn't able to do a hike on that Sunday either. It's actually Tuesday morning before work. I was like, okay, let me just come and get a quick hike in, start talking to the camera again a little bit. I know it's good for me. I want to talk a little bit about my last video. I wasn't super happy with how I did. Truth be told, I put even less effort into that one than I did the first one, and I realized that I didn't have that much to say, and so I was saying and a lot, and so I just want to go ahead and get all those out of the way with a little song. It goes Alright, now we should have all my uhs out of the way for this whole video. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if that works. It does feel good to just get all that out though. So there were a few things that I want to talk about. Starting with, just being glad to get, like I said earlier, being glad to get back into doing this. And the reason I say that is because I was doing it, I did it two weeks in a row without missing, and then I missed it for 2 weeks, right? And so I was starting to feel it. I was like, okay, I'm falling off of it, I don't want to let myself let go of this. I do think that this is important, and it's going to be helpful for me as I go through my journey. And it's so easy for us to start real gung-ho and like have a lot of enthusiasm, motivation, and to come out strong, and then we kind of put too much on ourselves and we go too hard too fast, and then before you know it, you're kind of falling off of it, and it's because you can't keep up with everything that you're trying to do. I know for me personally, I have a very busy life. I work over 40 hours a week at my job. I do a lot of like private lessons as well. Then I'm doing side projects, and then I'm also helping my family. There's just a lot going on, and all of us, we have busy lives. It's very easy to just like be distracted by being busy. You can very much so let go of or lose sight of what you're trying to accomplish in life just by being busy. And I think for me, I've been pretty good in my life at the bare minimum, like continuing to hop back on whatever it is that I've been trying to accomplish. I've gone through many phases in my life, ups and downs of fitness, for example. I've never gotten like hugely obese, right? Never gotten like super overweight, and I'm definitely blessed like genetically speaking, I do have a pretty high metabolism, and I do have a just an all-around personality of being very active, and that definitely has been very, very helpful in me staying in good shape. But I've gotten to where I've got a little gut, you know. I've definitely put on weight before. Right now I'm heavier than I know I should be, you know. I'm probably like 20 or 30 pounds heavier than I should be, and I still feel decent. I still like look in decent shape, but I know that I could feel better. I know that I could perform better, and I'm in the process of actually cutting that weight off and getting all my skills back. And I just said again. It's okay. I think that I got most of them out. I'm not saying it repeatedly in between every few words, so that's cool. I know I was listening to my last video, and the uhs or like just this monotone thing that I just heard so clearly every single time, and it drove me crazy while I was listening to it. I was like, I can't believe I posted this, but it's okay. Like I said, I'm just starting out on this, just getting used to like putting myself in this place of talking to a camera for a while, talking not just to a camera, but I'm talking to an audience, and it's very interesting. Like I said, I've gotten quite a bit of good feedback from this. I've even had some students talk to me about how they liked and subscribed to my channel, and they liked the videos that I had, which is cool. I didn't think that like some kids would be interested in hearing what I have to say. It's very interesting. I'm gonna switch shoulders here. Much better. All right. So, like I was saying, life is about phases. You go through cycles, right? I've been really, really fit several times in my life. I've also been a little out of shape a handful of times in my life. Excuse me. Obviously, the goal is to stay in pretty good shape and just be paying attention. You know, don't let yourself get so far that it gets hard to get back to where you want to be. I think that's where people really get lost, is they fall so far to one side that it seems impossible, or it seems like an insurmountable obstacle to get back to where they want to be, or that is really just going to take so much more energy than they have time to get into. And I know for me personally, like, I go through much shorter phases of working too much. So say for instance, you know, Josh Grant, he's been a great mentor in my life. I was talking to him this last weekend about progress. You know, he talked about how you can go up a little bit and then plateau, and then up a little bit and then plateau, and then up a little bit and plateau. And the idea of that is that you're getting a lot of work done, and then you rest for a little bit. You get a bunch of work done, and you rest for a little bit. You get a lot of work done, and you rest for a little bit. And this is a steady growth state, actually, in the grand scheme of things, right? Because the other thing that happens, and it's unfortunate because in this country, or maybe just modern society, we're kind of conditioned to work. You know, we're not told that rest is important. We're told to hustle and grind, put your nose to the grindstone until it grinds your face off, right? Which doesn't make any sense now that you think about it. But the other thing that he was talking about that happens And this is kind of what I've done plenty of times, is you go work, and then you have worked yourself so hard that you actually crash, right? And you lose ground, you lose height, you lose progress. And that's what happened with me. I was just working, non-stop. Like I said, working through the weekend, working with my parents, and just going. No rest, no recovery. And then I got pretty sick this last weekend. I had like a stomach bug or something, and I was just laid up for like 2 days. I had a real bad like fever, real bad body aches and stomach ache, and I couldn't do anything for a couple days. I totally had planned to go and help my parents move some more, get some more trash out of their yard and clean up their house more, and I wasn't able to do that just because, yeah, I was sick. I was super sick, and I also wasn't able to film another video this last weekend either, so that's why I'm doing it today. Obviously, I'm catching up on the things that I fell behind on, but it is super important to rest. Super important to make that part of your progress, because if you don't rest, you're gonna crash, right? I want to talk a little bit, just to change the subject, a little bit about, I guess, my emotional state, my transitioning out of my relationship. I've been going through a lot of internal battles, right? You know, I feel like everyone, when they're going through a breakup, especially if like you didn't have like some big blow up, there wasn't any foul play, no one did anything wrong to the other person, it's hard to say, like, is this actually the right thing to do? Should we actually break up? Should we actually part ways? And it's been a hard thing to come to terms with. I've been going back and forth on whether or not we work. You know, there was a lot of incompatibilities that I noticed about us, and there were also plenty of things that were awesome about our relationship. They're awesome about her. You know, she took real good care of me actually this weekend while I was sick, and that was a big, like, that was a really hard moment for me to like, as far as like, I was thinking a lot. I was laid up in bed, and I'm not a person who just like lays in bed very much, and so my mind was just racing 90 miles an hour. It's like, okay, what am I gonna do? Because this girl, she's taking really good care of me in a lot of ways, and I have a great deal of appreciation for her. But at the end of the day, like I was saying, there are lots of incompatibilities. You know, regardless of how much we love each other and care about each other, we have to take into consideration whether or not our lives line up, whether or not we are going to be able to go down the same path and be happy with following each other down that path. I actually have to turn around, start heading back, because I do have a private lesson to get to. I didn't have very much time to do this, but I wanted to get out and get into nature for a little bit. Gotta love seeing all this green. It's really good for you. I think this has been super good for my mental health. It's also good for your physical health to just walk around, but my mental health, just to get out into nature, get into the sun, see all this green. Yeah, I feel like green's my favorite color. And it's always been very good for me to be out in nature and just be close to the trees, close to the ground, close to the water, all that stuff. But back to what I was talking about. So I had a good training session last night. I know this probably seems a little off topic, but I had a really good training session last night. I was working on backflips, which is a move I used to have really well, like it was easy, and I haven't had that move like solidly in probably over a year, and I was embarrassed about it, to be honest. But I got it back last night, so that was super cool. And then after that training session, I did a lot of stretching, which I've desperately needed. Excuse me. And then after my training session, after my stretching session, I went into a sort of Shavasana yoga pose where you just lay down, close your eyes, and relax. And in that moment, I decided to talk with God. And I know some of you may or may not be believers in God. I myself have gone through plenty of back and forth on what I think about or how I believe or how I feel about God. I've never been one to say I don't believe in God. I don't think there is a God. But I grew up in a very Christian religious family, and then I think when I was about 18, I started to really question my faith, question my religion. I wanted to understand a lot more about why the world was the way that it was. It didn't make sense to me. I was like, why is there so much tragedy and suffering in the world? Why is it that if someone doesn't know my religion, they go to hell? There were so many teachings that I learned that were just so it caused a great deal of cognitive dissonance in my heart and my soul. I was like, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like a righteous God to send people to hell. How are we going to say that God loves us at any point, but is able to send us into a fiery damnation, eternal damnation? And so I definitely stepped away from religion when I was 18 to get a better idea for myself what God was. I delved deep into spirituality and my own understanding of God and my connection with the Holy Spirit. And I have learned a lot more from that than I ever learned from religion. And now that I've gone through my own experiences, I can actually take religious teachings for what they mean. I can understand them better. I just don't think that they're taught very well in churches sometimes. And I don't know exactly why that happens like that. I don't know what is lost in translation. I haven't figured all that out yet. But I do think that it's very important to have your own experience, to ask your own questions, to come to your own answers, to make sense of these things. For you to actually be able to learn anything of value from those stories, because that's a big part of what religion is. It's a story. It's a story of someone else's experience, right? And so the only way that you're going to be able to relate to those experiences is to have your own experience, right? To think for yourself to ask questions, to answer those questions, right? But I talked to God for the first time in a long time last night. It was a really good talk. And I asked him, I told him that I really needed help. I really needed help figuring out what I needed to do with this relationship. And upon opening up and talking with him, I started seeing all of these images of myself when I had gone through what some might say are near-death situations, right? Or at least like situations that could have severely damaged me, right? So I went through some images of when I was 9 years old, and we had just moved to Idaho, and we were climbing. We went down into this canyon that was close to the house that we lived in, and we were swimming in this canyon. And I was a crazy kid. I loved climbing all over stuff. I mean, it shows now in what I do. But I was climbing on the rock faces of the inside of this canyon after having just gone after I was just swimming, right? And so my shoes were wet, and so I was up on this platform, and I turned, and my feet just slipped out from under me, and I slipped, hit the platform I was on, and rolled off of it. Probably fell, I don't know, at the time I thought it was like 10-15 feet. I was also like 9 years old, and it was probably actually like maybe 7 or 8 feet. Still a good sized drop. And I fell flat on my face, like the front of my body, which is actually probably the best way to land, because that way, like now I understand, like from parkour, that landing flat on your body, if you're gonna land out of control, landing flat on your body is the best way to disperse impact. And so yeah, I landed flat on my front of my body, and I was a little beat up. I was a little bruised. I was a little scratched here and there, but for the most part I was fine. I got up and I climbed out of that canyon and everything. And then there was another time, I was 14, and I was skipping school. Kids don't skip school, and this is why. All right, I was 14, and I had gone to hang out with my friend. Doing a lot of bag switching today because my shoulders are sore. But I had gone to hang out with my friend, and his house was further away from my house than the school was, and I had, for whatever reason, misjudged how long it was going to take me to get home from his house. And so I was running late in comparison to how long it would have taken me to get home from school. And so I was running, right? I was moving, and I was coming across this street. It's an intersection, right? And well, I saw that the cars on either side weren't moving, and there was a crosswalk light, and it didn't say walk yet, but I saw that the cars weren't moving, so I just booked it across the street. And as I passed the 2 lanes of cars that weren't moving, there was a shoulder on the other side of that. And as I pass these 2 cars, I see a car coming down that shoulder. And I try with everything I have to get across this shoulder. And this car barely clips my hip. and it like throws me into the air. I do like a whole spin through the air. My book bag gets like thrown all over the place. My papers, everything is like, it's a big old mess, right? And thank God, like, that's all that happened. I got hit and I did a little flip through the air and I had a little bruise on my hip, but besides that I was fine. I did get caught skipping school, not that day, but the next week, because I skipped school again like a fool. I didn't learn my lesson. I skipped school and got hit by a car and then did it again. Kids, don't skip school. You might get hit by a car. And so that was one of the things that went through my head. And then just the countless times that I wouldn't call them near-death situations, but I've definitely been really close to messing myself up seriously in my career as a parkour practitioner. There have been many times where if I didn't bail just right, I could have easily been paralyzed or killed. And so, as I was going through all of these different all of these different images in my mind, all these different scenarios, I heard God say to me, I saved you from all of these situations. I saved you. I plucked you out of danger. And I am saving you now, my son. I am saving you from destroying yourself. Which is really hard to accept what I did. It's like I see it. You know, I lost myself in a lot of ways while I was in this relationship. You know, like I was talking about, I wasn't able to do a backflip for over a year. And I didn't talk about why. You know, during my relationship with my ex-girlfriend, I developed a chronic hip injury called sciatica. And more or less what causes pain when you have sciatica is the crunching action. So pulling your knees towards your chest or pulling your head towards your pelvis. That action is very, very painful. And so that's exactly what you do for a backflip. And so I wasn't practicing that move for a long time. I wasn't practicing a lot of the things that I used to love doing, and my body was falling apart. I was getting out of shape. I put on a lot of extra weight because of that, and I started losing connection with my community, losing connection with my friends, losing connection with my family. All these things to try and make that relationship work. And as hard as it was to admit all these things to myself, I realized to say, okay, I have to let go. I have to move on. I have to let her go. And it's all going to be okay. I'm going to find myself again. When I get back to doing all the things that I love doing, I'm going to reconnect with all the people that I love. And I think that's super important, especially when you're going through a breakup or going through a hard time in your life, to fall back on the things that you love, right? Fall back on your community, fall back on your family, fall back on your friends. They're there for you, they love you, and they will help you. It's okay to be vulnerable, right? It's okay to show weakness, because they will help you mend yourself. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. I will continue to post more. Like I said, I'm really glad that I came out here and did this again. I know I fell off for a couple weeks, but I'm back at it. and coming back stronger than before. All right, talk to y'all next time.